Welcome to part 6 as I start the last leg of my journey all the way from snowy Lapland here back to the UK. A quick 4-hour transfer stop in the beautiful lakeside town of Bowden. It's a little bit before 6 o'clock and yeah, sad times. Last major train journey of the trip. Nice 817 miles, 17-hour journey from here all the way to Sweden's second largest city of Gothenburg. So here we are, Gothenburg, on a very windy Thursday morning. Quick update, the UK officially went into lockdown this morning. Sweden and Germany expected to be added to the red list as of later on today, which kind of means it's basically end of the road for my trip. Now, last thing as a precaution, I booked a Ryanair flight from here back to the UK for tomorrow, which it now looks like as I've been staying in hostels and overnight trains for the last 3 weeks, my last night on this trip, I've decided to treat myself and I've booked a hotel for the night. But in the meantime, I've got 24 hours to enjoy this wonderful Swedish city. It's a beautiful morning here in Gothenburg. Shame it's time to go home. So here we are, game over. 3 weeks after I left my little Greek island, I've arrived back in my hometown here in the UK after the most amazing adventure. Right, time for a drink. Something I've always wanted to do but kind of never really got round to, and over the years, every year when I came to plan my big trip to my summer and winter seasons, my month off, it always kind of got pushed to the back burner in favour of a long haul destination. However, with the COVID situation, long haul was definitely off the table this year. This was now a realistic option where I could have a great travel experience over a few weeks, see a few places that I'd always meant to see, and tick a few things off the bucket list. So that's how it came to be. Now, the original plan was to travel back via Eastern Europe through countries like Romania, Slovenia, Slovakia, countries that I've never actually been to before. However, as my departure date grew closer, COVID numbers started increasing, and this whole kind of Eastern bloc pretty much got red listed by every Central and Western European country. So that kind of went out the window. But what I was left with was about 4 or 5 countries in Central Europe I could realistically, feasibly and easily still travel around. So that's kind of where the option went. I just needed to work out how to get from Greece, this kind of middle central block, and then from this middle central block back to the UK. Train travel just wasn't an option without having to quarantine or isolate, so basically I had to fly between these kind of areas. It was a case of literally in the days leading up to it, and also whilst travelling, I'm just constantly checking news channels, various websites, government sources and so forth, to make sure I didn't get caught out whilst I was travelling and suddenly find I'd end up having to quarantine somewhere. And as you well know, if you've watched the videos, I had to change the itinerary as I went along to avoid this. But yeah, I managed to get through the whole 3 weeks having to quarantine or isolate at all, which was great. This is Secretan, which is the European equivalent of Dettol, and these two are my best friends whilst I was travelling. Every time I used to sit, basically on a train or a bus, out come the wipes, and I wiped out every surface around me. Every time I checked into a hostel, the spray would come out, and I just sprayed everything from the bathroom, the bedroom, furniture, floors, you name it, it got sprayed. Now, the great thing about hostels in COVID times are basically they can only half fill the rooms, and they have to ensure beds are 2 metres apart to ensure social distancing. When I was out and about, if I was on public transport, I used to generally use a surgical face mask. When I was walking around, because you can social distance a lot easier, I use a face mask, but generally I'll stick a filter in it as well. A couple of things I used to do is try and stay safe, where I avoid table face-to-face seats on trains. I stick myself in the corner, and also again I try and avoid like public transport systems in cities like metros, public buses, trams, etc. And hopefully by taking those steps, that's what's kept me COVID-free during my travels. I've never really been one for galleries or museums anyway, and to be honest, a lot seemed to be closed whilst I was travelling. The other thing is entrance fees into these sort of places are astronomical and really kind of eats into your budget if you're travelling. For me, it's all about kind of the city. I like to fly around, walk around a lot of the cities, avoid public transport if I can, soak up the atmosphere, get lost in back streets as you never know what you're going to come across. To me, that's kind of what I get my kind of travel buzz out from when I visit a place. With regards to food and drink, I pretty much avoided all restaurants and bars apart from a few kind of cheap street takeaway places. A lot being, again, down to the COVID reason. Most of my food and drink kind of came from cheap supermarkets, a lot of packet sandwiches, stuff like from hostels, and you can't beat a cheap bottle of wine. Out and about, didn't really spend any money on kind of entrance fees or local transport, kind of metros, that sort of thing. I didn't really buy any souvenirs, and hopefully because of that, I managed to basically come in under budget for the whole trip, which was great. First place that comes to mind is Syracuse in Sicily. I'd kind of only come across it about a year ago. I'd never even heard of the place before then, and it simply just blew me away. The kind of the stone cobbled streets, the atmosphere, the buildings, the glorious Mediterranean coastline. It really is kind of picture perfect Italy at its finest. National Stone Castle, yes, it's all over social media. And yes, it is as stunning as the pictures make it out to be. Lauterbrunnen, the Swiss Alpine resort with its glorious waterfall, again, just simply stunning to actually be there. The two that surprised me though was kind of Nuremberg. I didn't think that city was as stunning. And it really is a very, very beautiful German city, one I highly recommend visiting. And finally, Lapland. Northern Lights aside, the scenery just blew me away. It was very dark, it was very gloomy, it was almost like a post-apocalyptic world, but there's something very dark and just wonderful about it that I just really loved. Yes, Sweden and COVID. I was very surprised the fact that basically nobody wears face masks despite there's a massive global pandemic going on, and the fact the numbers are actually on par with a lot of European countries. I was pretty much the only one walking around with a face mask. Not even like people in McDonald's staff there were wearing masks. No social distancing really seems to be happening. It's almost like the pandemic doesn't exist and they're just getting on with life, which actually might be a good thing in many ways, I don't know. The only other thing that kind of springs to mind is the fact that I really didn't have my passport checked at all whilst I was travelling by train around between countries. It was only checked twice, once in Austria and once in Denmark during the whole 3 weeks of travelling by train around the 6 countries I travelled around. Yes, without question. The whole experience has actually been a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, even in the middle of a global pandemic. But the one thing I loved about it compared to air travel is when you fly, you spend maybe an hour getting to the airport, 2-hour check-in, another hour, 2-hour flight, you land, you got an hour getting through immigration, another hour getting back into the city where you just landed. With a train, you're already in a city centre. You step on a train, you've got a lot more space to move around. You've then got a train journey, maybe what, 2, 4, 6 hours. You step off a train, straight back into a city centre. 10 minutes walk to your hostel or hotel, you're there. The added bonus though is the stunning scenery whilst you're travelling by train. Some of the places I travelled through, like Austrian Alps, parts of Italy, Lapland was just simply mind-blowing, which you don't get when you fly. So this is why this is not my last Interrail adventure. So next time, hopefully it will be Eastern Bloc Europe, so Slovenia, Slovakia, Romania, parts of Serbia and so forth. But until that time, I've got some incredible memories of this amazing trip that I've just had over the last 3 weeks. Thank you.